So imagine this scenario for a second. You have just finished a week that honestly felt like a whole month.
Oh yeah, we've all been there.
Right. You're physically drained, completely mentally fried. You collapse into bed, just desperate for some oblivion.
Just waiting to power down.
Exactly. And you drift off, just like you do every single night of your life. Darkness takes over. But then, snap.
The shift happens.
Suddenly, you are standing on a beach. But your brain immediately signals that something is off. This isn't just a normal beach.
The details are wrong. Well, not wrong, but too much.
Right. The sand isn't just sand. It is sparkling like crushed diamonds. It's refracting light in a way that actual physics shouldn't really allow. And the sky is swirling with these colors, iridescent purples, neon golds, stuff that doesn't even exist in the visible spectrum of your waking life. It's hyper-real.
And that hyper-reality is always the hallmark. It's the very first clue.
It's actually more real than the room you were sitting in right now. And in this moment, this is described by Kanav Sachdev. You look down at your hands.
The hand.
Yeah, and instead of skin and bone, instead of your normal fingerprints and scars, they are translucent. They're made of this dense, swirling fog. And in that split second, a thought hits you like an absolute lightning bolt.
The realization.
It's probably the most important thought a human being can have while they are unconscious. Wait a minute, I am dreaming.
And that single moment, that little spark of realization, it changes absolutely everything. It turns a basic biological function into a totally new frontier.
Because the moment you know you are dreaming, the rules of physics just dissolve. Sachdev describes lifting those foggy hands, and the ocean literally parts like a heavy velvet curtain. A staircase appears, leading straight down into the dark depths of the water.
And instead of waking up...
Right, instead of getting too excited and letting the dream fade, he decides to walk down it.
That image of descending the staircase is just perfect, because that is exactly what we are doing today. We are definitely not staying on the surface.
No, we are going all the way down. Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are exploring some truly mind-bending source material. It's a book called In Search of Zero, Lucid Dreaming and the Multidimensional Mind by Kanav Sachdev.
And this is part of the Transformation Roadmap series we've been doing.
Exactly. Our mission for this deep dive is to really unpack this, because I have to admit, when I first saw this title on our stack, I had a very specific preconception. I thought, okay, lucid dreaming, it's a playground.
Right. You know, flying around, walking through walls, maybe having dinner with a celebrity. That is the entry point for probably 99% of people.
Totally. I thought it was recreational, like a video game for your brain. But Sachdev is pitching something radically different here. He isn't talking about entertainment at all.
Not even a little bit.
He's talking about expanding reality. He argues that this state, what he calls zero-point consciousness, is actually a tool for profound psychological healing, trauma release, and even accessing what he calls a multidimensional internet of consciousness.
It's a massive claim. I mean, it sounds like sci-fi at first, but when you really unpack the book, you realize he is building this incredibly solid bridge between two worlds that usually don't talk to each other.
Right, the ancient and the modern.
Yeah, ancient spiritual traditions like Tibetan Buddhism and shamanism on one side and cutting-edge neuroscience and quantum mechanics on the other. He is basically arguing that sleep is a third of your life that you are currently just throwing away.
That's the stat that always gets me. If you live to be 90, you sleep for 30 years.
30 years. Imagine if you spent 30 years in a literal coma. That's effectively what most of us do every single night.
It's wild when you put it like that.
It is. And Sachdev is asking, what if you could reclaim that time? What if you could turn those 30 years into a therapy session, a physics lab, and a meditation retreat all rolled into one?
And the promise of this deep dive, the reason you should care about this, is that by the end of our conversation today, you will have the actual tools to wake up while you are sleeping and use that time for your own psychological and spiritual evolution.
It's completely practical.
But to get there, we really have to start with the hardware. We have to talk about the brain. Because reading through the source material, there is a fundamental disagreement about what the brain actually is.
Ah, yes, the radio versus factory debate.
I found this fascinating. Walk us through this. Because the standard view, you know, the one I learned in high school biology, is definitely the factory model.
Right. It's the materialist view of neuroscience. In this model, your brain is just a biological machine. It takes in raw materials, so photons hit your eyes, sound waves hit your ears, physical pressure hits your skin.
Input, basically.
Exactly. The brain processes those inputs, and it essentially manufactures consciousness. It builds the picture of the world you see inside your skull. And the implication is, if you damage the factory, the product stops. If the brain dies, consciousness ends entirely.
It's a self-contained generator.
Yes. But Sachdev challenges this. He draws on older ideas from people like William James and even modern consciousness researchers to pose a totally different analogy. What if the brain isn't a factory at all? What if it's a receiver?
Like a radio.
Like a radio.
So the music isn't actually coming from inside the radio.
No, the signal is just in the air. Electromagnetic waves are everywhere around us right now. The radio just tunes into a specific frequency and amplifies it so you can actually hear it.
And if you smash the radio,
The music stops playing in your room, sure, but the signal itself hasn't died. The broadcast is still happening.
and in this analogy, consciousness is the broadcast.
Precisely. Sachdev suggests that consciousness might be primary. It's the fundamental substrate of the whole universe. And our brain is just a reducing valve.
Reducing valve. I think Aldous Huxley used that term, right?
He did. The idea is that the brain's job isn't to create your reality. Its job is actually to limit it, to filter it way down.
Because if we tuned into the whole signal, I mean, everything, everywhere, all at once, we would be completely overwhelmed.
You couldn't even function. You couldn't tie your shoes if you were experiencing the emotional state of every being on the planet or perceiving the movement of every single atom.
So it filters it down to basic survival mode.
Right. This is a chair. This is food. This is a threat.
Run away from the tiger.
Exactly.
Oh.
And here's the key for everything we are talking about today when we sleep. And specifically, when we enter a lucid dream, that survival valve loosens up.
The filter gets bypassed.
Yes. We start tuning into these other frequencies that are normally just drowned out by the static of waking survival. And that is exactly why Sachdev titled the book In Search of Zero. He is looking for that baseline signal.
That 0 point where the individual radio meets the universal broadcast.
Exactly.
That is a beautiful concept. Honestly, maybe slightly terrifying too.
Yeah.
But before we get too deep into the metaphysical side, I really want to ground this in the biology for you. Because even if we do accept the radio theory, we are still using the biological dial to tune it.
We are still tied to the physical body.
Right, so what is actually happening inside the skull when someone wakes up in a dream? Because experientially, it feels like a total paradox. You are fast asleep, but you are completely awake.
It is a biological paradox. And to understand it, we have to look at REM sleep rapid eye movement. This is the stage where the magic happens. On a normal night, you cycle into REM about every 90 minutes or so.
And this is when the body paralysis kicks in, right? REM atonia.
Yes, REM-atonia. And evolution is really smart here. If you are dreaming about fighting off a saber-toothed tiger, you definitely don't want your physical body to start actually punching and kicking the wall.
Or whoever is sleeping next to you.
Right. So the brainstem sends a specific signal down the spinal cord to paralyze your major muscle groups. You are chemically locked in.
Which is a good thing.
It's a very good thing. Now, chemically and electrically, a brain in REM is completely wild. It is almost as active as a waking brain, really high frequencies, massive energy consumption. But there is one crucial structural difference.
The prefrontal cortex.
Specifically, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the DLPFC. In normal dreaming, it completely shuts down.
And that's essentially the CEO of the brain.
That's the executive center. It handles logic, decision-making, self-awareness, impulse control, all the adult stuff.
So when the CEO goes on vacation,
the inmates run the asylum. And that is exactly why normal dreams are so completely bizarre. You can see a pink elephant flying a 747. And because your logic center is offline, you don't stop and say, wait, that's impossible. You just say, oh, cool, a flying elephant.
you accept the reality presented to you completely uncritically.
Uncritically, because you literally lack the biological hardware to question it at that exact moment.
But in a lucid dream, something anomalous happens. You are in deep erematonia. Your body is totally paralyzed. Your visual cortex is hallucinating an entire world. But suddenly, the DLPFC flicks back online.
The CEO walks back into the office right in the middle of the crazy office party.
And he says, wait a minute, elephants can't fly.
And that creates a true hybrid state of consciousness. You have the visceral, hallucinatory 3D immersion of the dream state, combined with the critical, analytical faculties of your waking state.
It's the best of both worlds. You are inside the VR game, but you also have full access to the developer console.
That is a perfect analogy. And while Western science is just now mapping this, using fMRI machines to actually see that specific lighting up of the frontal lobes during sleep, Sachdev is quick to point out that we are incredibly late to the party.
Yeah, he dedicates a whole section to ancient maps of the territory. This isn't a new discovery, it's a recovery.
Exactly.
I was really struck by the source materials section on the Iroquois. I think in the West, we tend to view dreams as just brain garbage, the brain taking out the trash at night, processing your daily anxiety. But the Iroquois saw it as something essential for public health.
That's a great way to frame it. For the Iroquois, and honestly many indigenous cultures, dreams were considered the wishes of the soul. They believed that the soul has specific desires that the waking mind either ignores or represses.
So if you don't listen to it,
that energy gets trapped. And they believed it manifests as actual sickness in the physical body, or even discord in the broader community.
So they had this thing called the Dream Sharing Festival. And it wasn't just storytelling around a fire.
No, it was a literal medical intervention. If you had a powerful dream, you would act it out for the tribe, and the community would actively help you fulfill the dream's request. If you dreamt of a feast, they would organize a feast for you. They understood that the boundary between in here, the mind, and out there, the physical world, is highly porous.
It's all connected. And then you have the Tibetan Buddhists. Now, I've heard of dream yoga before, but I always just assumed it was, meditating while you sleep, just relaxing.
It definitely includes meditation, but the ambition is so much grander than that. See, in the West, lucid dreaming is almost always about control. I want to fly to Paris. I want to drive a sports car.
Total ego gratification.
Exactly. But in Tibetan dream yoga, the goal is the exact opposite of that. The goal isn't to control the dream for fun. The goal is to fully recognize that the dream is an illusion.
To see through it.
Yes. And once you truly, deeply master that in the dream state, once you can manipulate the dream world simply because you know it isn't solid, you are supposed to turn that exact same awareness back onto your waking life.
You realize that waking life is also a construct.
They teach that this you, me, the microphone, the room you are sitting in is also a projection of the mind. It's just a denser, slower dream.
So the dream is basically a low-stakes training ground for deconstructing reality itself.
That's it. They argue that if you can wake up in the dream, you can wake up in life. You break the cycle. And honestly, it aligns surprisingly well with the Aboriginal concept of dream time.
Right, which we in the West often completely mistranslate as being in the past, like long ago in the dream time.
Yeah, it's a terrible translation. For Aboriginal cultures, the dream time isn't then. It's every when. It is a parallel dimension of reality that underpins the physical world right now, in this very second.
It is the blueprint.
Exactly. And Sachdev draws this fascinating line from that ancient Aboriginal idea straight to modern quantum physics, specifically to theories of non-locality. The idea that space and time aren't these rigid containers we think they are, but flexible, interconnected constructs.
It really seems like all these roads, the ancient wisdom, quantum physics, the neuroscience, they are all converging on this one point, the hard problem of consciousness.
Yes.
There was a story in the book that really stuck with me. I think it illustrates this convergence perfectly. The library dream. Can we talk about that for a second?
Oh, the library. This is a classic glitch in the matrix kind of story. So Sachdev is having a lucid dream. He stabilizes the dream environment. We will talk about how to do that practically in a minute. But he finds himself standing in this vast, almost Victorian-style library.
Very atmospheric.
It smells like old paper and dust, super vivid. He walks up to a wooden shelf, pulls down a thick leather-bound book, and opens it up.
Now, usually in dreams, text is a mess. It's gibberish or the words shift around when you try to focus on them.
Usually, yes. But in this specific dream, the text was completely stable. And it wasn't a novel. It was dense technical information. So he starts reading pages of it. Complex diagrams, highly specific terminology. He forces himself to memorize as much of it as he possibly can.
And then he wakes up.
He wakes up, he is completely shaken, and he immediately writes everything down in his journal.
And what happens next?
He goes to a real library, a Waking World library. He researches the exact topic he was reading about, and he finds out that the information in the dream book was 100% accurate.
Wow.
It was specialized, esoteric knowledge about a subject he had never studied, never read about, and never encountered anywhere in his waking life.
Okay, that always gives me chills. Because if we go back to the factory model of the brain, if the brain is just rearranging raw materials and memories from your daily life, how does it manufacture highly accurate, technical information it never received in the first place.
It can't. It is impossible under the factory model. It's what consciousness researchers call the knowledge problem. Now, a strict skeptic would just say, oh, it's cryptomnesia. He must have glanced at an encyclopedia 10 years ago, forgot it consciously, and his brain just stored it.
But that really feels like a stretch when we were talking about complex technical data and diagrams.
Sachdev argues it is a massive stretch. He uses this experience to support the radio theory. In that dream, he wasn't accessing his own personal hard drive. He was accessing the cloud.
The multidimensional internet.
Exactly. He tuned his radio to a frequency of information that existed completely outside his personal experience.
And if that is true, if we can actually access the cloud while we sleep, then learning to lucid dream isn't just a fun hobby. It's a literal necessity. It's gaining access to a level of intelligence and information we are completely cut off from during the day.
It changes the entire value proposition of sleep.
Okay, I'm totally sold on the why. I want access to that library. I want to tune the radio. But now we have to get practical. How do we actually do it? Because I have tried in the past, and usually I just sleep like a log and wake up groggy.
It takes training.
Right. And Sachdev provides a whole toolkit. In section 2 of the book, where do we even start?
It starts before you ever go to sleep. It starts right now while you are awake. You have to train that CEO part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, to actively question reality. Because if you don't question reality when you are awake, you definitely won't question it when you are dreaming.
This is the concept of reality checking.
Right. But Sachdev emphasizes that most people do this completely wrong. They just go through the motions, they tap their finger on a wall, ask, am I dreaming, in their head, and then just move on with their day. It just becomes a mindless act.
So it has to be a genuine investigation.
You have to really, truly ask yourself, is this real right now? You have to actively look for the glitch. Sachdev outlines a few specific tests that rely on the fact that the dream world, as high fidelity as it can be, is fundamentally unstable. The brain's rendering engine has limits.
And the first one he suggests is the hand check.
This is the gold standard of reality checks. You just look at your hands, really study them, count the fingers. In waking life, your hand is a very stable, complex geometric object. But in a dream, the brain struggles to hold that detailed image steady.
So what happens?
If you look at your hand in a dream, it might start to melt. You might suddenly have 6 or 7 fingers. It might look like a lobster claw. It might turn into a paw.
The lobster claw would be a pretty dead giveaway.
You would hope so. But remember, your logic center is suppressed. You might just look at it and think, weird hand today, and go back to the dream.
That's why you need the waking habit.
Yeah.
So that you do it automatically and catch the glitch.
Exactly. The other big one is the text test.
Relying on the instability of language.
Right. The language centers of the brain, like Broca's area, aren't fully synchronized during REM sleep. So if you see a stop sign in a dream, it might actually say stop. But if you look away and then look back, it now says POTS.
Scrambles.
You look away and back again, and now it's just hieroglyphics. If text changes when you look away, you are 100% dreaming.
And there's also the physics test.
Super simple. Just jump in the air. Gravity is just the simulation in your dreaming mind. And sometimes that simulation glitches. If you jump and you float down like a feather, or if you just hang in the air for a fraction of a second too long, you have your answer.
So the strategy here is you do this 10, maybe 20 times a day. Every time you walk through a doorway or every time you pull out your phone. Eventually it becomes a Pavlovian response.
Yes. It spills over into the dream. You walk through a door in a dream, you check your hand purely out of habit, and boom, it's melting. And suddenly the lights turn on. You are lucid.
But catching the dream is only half the battle.
Yeah.
You also have to actually remember it when you wake up.
This is the biggest hurdle for beginners.
It's my struggle for sure. I wake up, I remember the dream for maybe 5 seconds. It was epic. I was saving the world, talking to aliens, and then poof, it just dissolves like mist.
That is extremely common, and it's actually a biological mechanism. The neurochemistry of the waking brain, specifically high levels of norepinephrine, is literally designed to wipe the slate clean so you can focus on the real world. Sachdev has a very specific protocol to counter this. He calls it anchoring the drift.
What is the protocol? Walk us through it.
Rule number 1, do not move.
Physically.
Physically. When you wake up, stay completely, utterly still. Don't even open your eyes. Don't reach for your phone to check the time. Don't stretch your legs. The second you engage your major muscles, you signal the brain to switch into waking mode, and you instantly overwrite the short-term memory buffer where the dream is stored.
So you just lie there, frozen.
You lie there and you gently replay the sensory details. This is key. Don't try to remember the plot.
Like, first I went to the store, then I saw my mom.
Right, because that's linear logic, and dreams aren't linear. If you try to force logic onto it, it evaporates. Instead, focus on the vibe. What did the air smell like? What was the color of the sky? What was the underlying emotion? Were you terrified? Joyful?
Capture the emotional residue first.
Exactly. If you can grab the tail of the emotion, the rest of the beast usually follows. The narrative will just naturally fill itself in, and once you have it firmly in your mind, then you move. You grab your journal and you write it down immediately.
And this brings us to the concept of cartography. You are essentially mapping the territory of your own mind.
Yes. You aren't just writing fun stories, you are looking for dream signs.
Your personal glitches.
Everyone has them. Recurring themes. Maybe in your dreams, you are always back in your high school locker room. Maybe the elevators you get in always move sideways instead of up and down.
Or your teeth are falling out. That's a huge one.
Oh, the teeth one is a classic anxiety dream. But once you identify a personal dream sign, say, loose teeth, you can program your brain. You use a technique called MILD.
Which stands for mnemonic-induced lucid dream.
Right, it's programming your perspective memory. As you are falling asleep at night, you repeat a mantra. Something like, next time my teeth feel loose, I will do a reality check. You are setting a mental alarm clock. You visualize yourself in a past dream about your teeth, but in your visualization, you imagine becoming lucid. You literally rewrite the memory before bed.
That seems very accessible. Anyone can do that. Yeah. But Sachdev also talks about the surfer's method. The acronym is Wild Wake-Initiated Lucid Dream. And this sounds, well, intense.
It is definitely the black belt technique. The goal here is to keep your mind completely awake and aware while your physical body falls asleep. You are consciously tricking your biology.
How do you even navigate that without just accidentally falling asleep normally?
It requires a really delicate balance of attention. You lie down, you consciously relax every single muscle in your body, and you watch the hypnagogic imagery.
The lava lamp show behind your eyelids.
Exactly. The blobs of color, the random geometrical patterns that show up when you close your eyes, you have to watch them passively. If you engage too much, like if you say, oh, that blob looks like a face, your brain wakes up. But if you disengage too much, you just lose consciousness and fall asleep. You have to surf the edge.
And what happens if you manage to stay on the board?
Things get really wild. You might start to hear a loud buzzing sound in your ears. You might feel a heavy vibration, almost like electricity running through your spine. This is the onset of sleep paralysis. It can be absolutely terrifying if you don't know what is happening.
Because the brain is physically cutting the cord to the body.
Yes. And instead of panicking, you lean into it. You visualize yourself stepping out of your physical body or literally rolling out of your bed onto the floor. And suddenly, those hypnagogic blobs coalesce into a full 3D scene. You step directly from your waking bedroom into the dream world with zero break in your conscious awareness.
That sounds exactly like an out-of-body experience.
To the person experiencing it, it feels indistinguishable from one, and the visual clarity of a wild dream is usually much, much higher than normal dreams. It's like stepping into 4K resolution.
He also mentions hacking your sleep schedule to force these states. Catent, the cycle adjustment technique.
This one is for the data-driven folks. It involves manipulating your REM rebound. You wake up 90 minutes before your usual time.
Okay.
Stay awake for 30 minutes. You read a book about dreaming. You meditate. You write in your journal. Just keep the brain focused on lucidity. And then you go back to bed.
The wake back to bed method.
Yes. Because your brain is slightly sleep-deprived and extremely hungry for that missed REM cycle, when you go back to sleep, you dive straight into a super intense, elongated REM period. That is prime time for lucidity. It's like hitting a trampoline.
He does briefly mention supplements in the source material, too.
Yeah.
Galantamine. We should touch on that.
He does, but he pairs it with a very strong caution, which we absolutely need to echo here. Galantamine interacts with acetylcholine, which is the neurotransmitter that regulates REM sleep. Taking it can produce incredibly vivid, highly stable, lucid dreams.
What?
But it's powerful stuff. It can cause nausea, and it can really mess up your natural sleep hygiene if you take it too often. It should be viewed as a tool for occasional use, not a crutch to rely on.
All right, don't rely on the pill to do the actual mental work. Okay, so now we have the toolkit. We have done the reality checks. We remember the dream. We have woken up inside it. We are standing on that beach, fully lucid. The water is parting.
Yeah.
Now what? because this is where In Search of Zero moves from just cool parlor tricks into profound, life-altering territory.
Section 3.
All right, the healing chamber.
This is really the beating heart of the book. Sachdev argues that the dream space isn't just a playground. It is a sanctuary of the self. And the very first thing you usually encounter in that sanctuary is the exact thing you've been running away from your entire life, the shadow.
We are talking about the Jungian shadow here.
Yes. Carl Jung defined the shadow as all the parts of ourselves that we actively reject. The anger, the selfishness, the strange sexual desires, the deep-seated fears. In our waking life, we shove all of that into the basement of the subconscious so we can function and be seen as good people.
But in dreams?
In dreams, the basement door is left wide open.
And a shadow walks right out, usually manifesting as a monster.
Exactly. The stalker in the alley, the demon, the wild animal breaking into your house. In a normal, non-lucid nightmare, your reaction is purely biological, fight or flight. You try to run away or you wake up sweating, heart pounding.
And by doing that, you reject it all over again.
Exactly. You reinforce the psychological separation. You say, I am here and the bad thing is out there. But the lucid dreamer is trained to do the hardest thing imaginable. When the monster appears, they stop running. They turn around. And they face it.
There is a truly powerful case study in the book about this, the story of James.
James is a perfect example. He was a high-performing corporate executive, very polite, known as a really nice guy in the office. But he suffered from this debilitating, recurring nightmare where he was being chased through a dark alley by a man holding a knife, just completely terrifying.
So he learns to lucid dream using these techniques, and he finds himself back in the alley.
He realizes he is dreaming. And instead of running, he stops. He is trembling, he is terrified because the fear in a dream feels 100% real, but he forces himself to turn and face the man. And instead of fighting him, he asks a question.
What does he ask?
He says, "Who are you? And what do you have to show me?"
And the man with the knife?
The attacker literally lowers the knife. His entire face changes, softens. And he looks at James and says, "I am your ambition."
Wow. That is heavy.
It completely floored James. He woke up and realized he had been actively suppressing his competitive drive, his killer instinct, because he had this belief that it was bad or mean to be ambitious. He was repressing his own power to keep up this nice guy persona.
That was turning toxic in his subconscious.
Right. By hugging the monster, he literally embraced the attacker in the dream. He integrated that raw energy back into his psyche. He woke up feeling whole. And in his waking life, his career absolutely took off because he wasn't afraid to be assertive anymore.
It totally reframes the whole concept of a nightmare. The monster isn't actually trying to hurt you. It's just desperate to get your attention. It's crying out to be acknowledged.
Precisely. It's a fractured part of you that wants to come home. And the exact same principle applies to inner child work. Sachdev describes lucid dreams as a literal form of emotional time travel.
The story of Sophia from the source material really touched me on this front. She becomes lucid, and she finds a little girl hiding in a dark closet in her dream.
Yes. It was a 6-year-old version of herself, shaking, crying in the dark. So adult Sophia approaches her and asks what's wrong. The child holds up a school report card with a B+ on it. She is absolutely terrified that her father is going to be furious with her.
Now, adult Sophia knows a B+ doesn't matter. She knows she survived childhood, and she is safe now. But the child, the actual memory anagram living inside her nervous system, is frozen in that exact moment of trauma.
So what does she do? She reparents her own inner child. Inside the lucid dream, adult Sophia sits down and hugs the little girl. She tells her, "I love you no matter what your grades are. You are safe now. You are enough."
And the author makes it clear this isn't just a nice mental visualization.
Yeah.
There's actual neuroscience happening here. Memory reconsolidation.
This is such a crucial concept in modern psychology. For a long time, we thought long-term memory was like a file in a filing cabinet. You take it out, read it, and put it back, unchanged.
Prominent.
Right. But we now know that when you access a memory, it becomes labile. It becomes physically malleable, like wet clay, for a short window of time, usually about 4 to 6 hours.
So if you change the emotional context while that clay is wet,
you physically rewire the neural pathway in the brain. If you inject a profound feeling of safety and love into a memory that was originally stored with fear and shame, you literally strip away the trauma response.
you don't change the facts of what happened.
No, the B+ still happened. The father was still angry. But you remove the emotional sting. Sophia essentially healed a 30-year-old psychological wound in a 30-minute nap.
That is therapy at light speed.
Yep.
But we should note, Sachdev is also very careful here. He talks about trauma release, but he issues a strong warning about safety. If someone has severe, deep-rooted PTSD, just diving headfirst into a nightmare could be highly re-traumatizing.
Absolutely. Safety first, always. He suggests creating a safe room or a protective bubble in the dream space before you ever try to engage with deep trauma. You visualize a sanctuary, maybe a beach, a fortress, a sphere of light where absolutely nothing can penetrate or hurt you. You anchor yourself there first.
And from that safe space, you can use what he calls dual awareness.
Right. You watch the traumatic memory replay, but you watch it like a movie on a screen at a distance. You are the audience, not the actor. You maintain the dual awareness that you are perfectly safe in your bubble right now, even while observing the past. This allows your brain to process the event without your body being flooded by adrenaline and cortisol.
And from there, you can actually re-script the event.
Yes. You can jump onto the stage and change the ending of the movie. You can push the abuser away. You can stop the car crash from happening. You can save the victim.
Now, I can hear a skeptic saying, isn't that just denial? You're just pretending the bad thing didn't happen?
It's not denial of the historical fact. It's a specific biological signal to the nervous system. Trauma is often just a stuck fight-or-flight response. The body literally thinks the threat is still happening in the present moment. By re-scripting the ending in a highly vivid lucid dream, by finally winning the fight or escaping the danger, you complete the biological cycle.
You give the body the resolution it never got.
You tell the amygdala, it is over. We survived. And it allows the physical body to finally relax.
It's taking the power back.
Literally rewriting the script of your own life.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
So we have healed the past. We have integrated the shadow. Now things get really wild. Section 4 of the book, The Quantum and the Multidimensional. This is where Sachdev stops sounding like a clinical psychologist and really starts sounding like a theoretical physicist.
He does, and this is where that zero-point concept really comes into its own. He makes the argument that dream physics might actually be a closer representation of the true nature of reality than our waking physics.
Let's break that down. He talks about entanglement.
Quantum entanglement is the real-world physics phenomenon, where two particles, once linked, remain intimately connected across vast distances. If you change the spin of one, the other changes instantly, faster than the speed of light. Einstein hated it. He called it spooky action at a distance. But Sachdev says we experience this exact phenomenon in dreams all the time.
How so? Like, what does that feel like experientially?
Have you ever been in a dream where you are talking to another character and you just implicitly know exactly what they're thinking? Or maybe you are the character, but you are also simultaneously watching them from a third-person perspective?
Yeah, the perspective shifts constantly. Or I just feel this deep, intuitive connection to the environment itself. Like the house I'm in is somehow me.
That is non-local awareness. In the dream state, the physical illusion of separation dissolves. You realize experientially that you are the dreamer, and you are the dream character, and you are the scenery. You are entangled with everything in the field. Sachdev suggests this isn't just a brain trick. It is experiential proof that consciousness is fundamental and fully interconnected.
And then there's the concept of superposition.
The idea that reality exists as a probability field until a conscious observer looks at it, the classic Schrödinger's cat experiment. In a dream, the environment is highly fluid. It's a blur of potential. The moment you focus your attention on a blurry door, it crystallizes into a specific oak door. The moment you expect a monster to be behind it, the wave function collapses and the monster appears.
You're collapsing the wave function with your own attention.
Exactly. Dreaming is basically a real-time laboratory for testing the observer effect. You see instantly how your expectation literally creates the reality you experience.
He also gets into parallel realities. This is the what-if scenario generator.
And this is where the quantum theory gets highly practical again. You can use the lucid dream state to explore unchosen life paths. Let's say you were agonizing over whether to take a new job in Tokyo. In a lucid dream, you can spin up a fully immersive simulation of that specific reality.
Like a personal holodeck.
Exactly like a holodeck. You can fly to Tokyo. You can walk into that specific office building. You can sit at the desk and do the work. And most importantly, you can see how it feels, not just logically, but viscerally. Do you feel expanded and happy or contracted and anxious? It's the ultimate flight simulator for massive life decisions.
But then he introduces something that might definitely spook some listeners.
Yeah.
Archetypal and interdimensional encounters. Meeting beings in the dream that, well, that aren't you.
Yes. This is easily the most controversial area of unaeronautics, which is the formal term for dream exploration. Are these dream characters just complex sock puppets generated by your subconscious, or are they external, autonomous entities?
And Sachdev takes a both-hand approach here.
He does. He doesn't dismiss either possibility.
Explain the external part, because the subconscious part makes sense to most people.
Well, look at the case study of Maya from the book. She was a professional artist, suffering from a massive creative block. In a lucid dream, she finds herself in a cave and meets an ancient woman. And Maya notes that this woman feels completely autonomous. She has a distinct personality, a heavy presence that feels totally alien to Maya. She doesn't feel like a part of Maya's mind.
And this entity teaches her something.
She teaches Maya a highly specific somatic art technique. It involves combining precise breathing patterns with specific brushstrokes. A technique Maya consciously did not know. A technique she had never seen, never read about, never studied in art school.
And she wakes up and uses it.
She wakes up, goes to her canvas, tries the technique, and it works perfectly. It completely revolutionizes her art style.
So the big question is, if that ancient woman was just a fragmented part of Maya's own brain, where was that specific technical knowledge hiding?
Exactly. Sachdev suggests that in these deep, lucid states, we might be tapping into a larger collective consciousness, what Jung called the collective unconscious, or perhaps we're even interacting with genuine, independent intelligences that natively inhabit these non-physical spaces.
The multidimensional internet again,
Mm-hmm.
logging into a different server.
Precisely.
That naturally brings us to the spiritual aspect of the book. If we can meet wise beings, can we also reach actual enlightenment in a dream?
Sachdev strongly argues that the dream state is a turbocharger for spiritual practice. Think about trying to meditate in your working life. It's hard. Your knees hurt. Your nose itches. A car drives by outside and distracts you. You are constantly pulled back by the dense physical body.
But in a dream, you don't actually have knees.
Exactly. You have pure mind. If you sit down to meditate inside a lucid dream, you drop in deep and you drop in fast. He talks extensively about dissolution practice.
Walk us through what that actually looks like.
You sit down in the dream, maybe back on that sparkling beach we talked about at the beginning, and you intentionally, consciously dissolve the environment. You turn the diamond sand back into pure light. You turn the ocean into light.
Erasing the holodeck.
And then you turn that attention inward. You look at your own dream body, and you dissolve your foggy hands, your legs, your chest. You uncreate yourself until there is absolutely nothing left.
Just awareness.
Pure objectless awareness. No I, no world, no separation, just the hum of existence itself. He calls this resting in 0 point.
That sounds terrifyingly close to ego death.
It is ego death, and he argues that it is a vital rehearsal for the final transition we will all make. He calls it conscious dying.
Conscious dying, that is a heavy concept.
Yeah, it is. The Tibetans believe that what happens to our consciousness when we fall asleep every night is actually a mini version of what happens when we physically die. The external senses withdraw, the internal world flares up, and the ego dissolves. If you can learn to navigate that dissolution consciously in a dream, if you can stay perfectly lucid while your entire world falls apart, you won't be terrified when physical death finally comes.
You will recognize the territory.
You'll say, oh, I know this place. I've been here 1,000 times. This is just the clear light.
That is so profound. It really reframes the whole practice of lucid dreaming. It's not just about exerting control over a fantasy world. It's ultimately about total surrender.
The ultimate surrender. Learning how to let go of the self.
Okay, we have covered the cosmos, we've covered death, and quantum physics. Now let's bring it back down to earth for the final section of our deep dive. Integration. Because how do we bring this cosmic wisdom back to our mundane 9-to-5 lives? If it just stays in the dream, it's just a really cool memory.
It has to translate. We need what Sachdev calls the spillover effect.
He starts this section with creative problem solving. Now we know the history here. Dmitri Mendeleev supposedly saw the entire periodic table of elements in a dream. August Kekulé figured out the chemical structure of the benzene ring because he dreamt of a snake eating its own tail.
Right. But the key difference is those historical events were spontaneous. They were lucky accidents. Sachdev teaches a practice called dream incubation. You don't just wait around for luck to strike. You actively hunt for the answer.
How do you do that?
You write the specific problem down on a piece of paper right before bed. You saturate your waking mind with it. How do I fix this bug in my code? How do I structure the ending of my novel? You look at the problem until your eyes bleed. Then, once you become lucid in the dream, you deliberately construct a workshop,
A mental laboratory.
a lab, and you visualize the abstract problem as a 3D object. There is a fantastic case study in the book of a mechanical engineer who was trying to fix a design flaw in a medical device. He couldn't figure it out on paper. The fluid dynamics were just way too complex to model.
So he went to his dream lab.
In his lucid dream, he actually shrank himself down, kind of like the magic school bus, and he floated inside the medical device while it was running. He literally became a particle in the fluid.
No way.
Yes, he saw the turbulence firsthand. He felt the friction. He saw exactly where the internal design was causing the flow to fail. He woke up, went to his computer, changed the curve of the pipe based on what he saw, and it worked perfectly.
That is the literal definition of a superpower.
It is using the brain's innate simulation software for its intended purpose.
Yeah.
But even if we aren't engineers designing medical devices, Sachdev talks about how this practice fundamentally changes our baseline personality. He calls it state recognition.
This circles back to the radio analogy, right?
It does. Think about it. If you spend your nights constantly asking, am I dreaming? Is this real? You inevitably start asking that during the day. Not literally asking, am I physically asleep right now? But asking, is this narrative I'm experiencing actually real?
You mean the internal stories we tell ourselves constantly? My boss hates me, I'm a total failure, this traffic jam is ruining my life.
Exactly. You start to see those stressful waking narratives as just projections. You realize that just as your mind creates the terrifying monster in the dream, your mind also creates the unnecessary drama in your office. You start moving from being the victim, life is happening to me, to the creator, I am interpreting and shaping this.
He calls that creative responsibility.
Yes. And there is a massive, undeniable confidence boost that comes with it too. I mean, if you have faced down a demon, or flown to the moon, or intentionally dissolved your own ego into pure light, that PowerPoint presentation to the board of directors on Tuesday morning just doesn't seem quite so scary anymore.
The stakes feel drastically lower because you have personally seen the bigger picture.
You carry the vastness of the multidimensional dream into the confinement of your daily routine. You walk around with this secret little smile because you know firsthand that reality is so much bigger and stranger than what everyone else is stressing over.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I just keep thinking about that very first image we talked about. The beach. The diamond sand. The realization. We spend a third of our lives asleep. 20, maybe 30 years.
And for the vast majority of us, it's just a blackout. It's lost time. It's a commercial break between the actual episodes of our life.
And Sachdev's argument, and I think it's an incredibly compelling one, is that we simply can't afford to waste that time anymore. We have a supercomputer between our ears, a trauma therapy center, and a spiritual temple, and we just lock the doors and turn off the lights every single night.
We do, but we don't have to. The door is actually unlocked.
In Search of Zero is basically the skeleton key to those doors.
It really is. It's a practical manual for reclaiming a third of your life.
If you want to dive deeper into this, and believe me, we have barely scratched the surface of the quantum physics and the specific induction techniques here, you really need to grab the source material. It is a must-read. The book is called In Search of Zero: Lucid Dreaming and the Multidimensional Mind by Kanav Sachdev.
And we should remind everyone, it is part of a broader series, right?
Yes, the In Search of Zero series. He covers meditation, astral projection, Kundalini awakenings. It's basically a complete curriculum for the modern psychonaut. You can find it on Amazon, Google Play Books, Apple Books, pretty much all the leading retailers.
Definitely worth picking up. It will change how you view your pillow.
I want to leave you with one final thought to chew on tonight as you get ready for bed. We talked a lot about how the dream world responds instantly to your expectations. If you expect a monster, you get a monster. If you expect flight, you fly.
The observer effect in action.
Right. But if reality is as malleable as a dream, and if your waking perception is ultimately just another kind of dream broadcast, what are you unknowingly creating right now? And more importantly, what will you actively choose to dream tonight?
Sweet dreams, everyone.
Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive. We will see you next time.